Hi, this is Heather Van Wagner, and I will be presenting my virtual defense for my master's thesis earned through Greenville University. My faculty mentor is Dr. Nolan, and my thesis title is Identifying Instructional Practices Used to Differentiate Learning and Facilitate Academic Progress Among Students with Learning Disabilities. This thesis was the first part. My research began last August, and now completing it May of 2025. Students with learning disabilities are spending most of their time in the general education classroom following the passage of No Child Left Behind Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The problem associated with this study is that for general education teachers to facilitate the academic progress of students with learning disabilities in the regular classroom, those differentiated practices deemed to be effective must first be identified. This study hypothesized that teachers would cite centers, tiered activities, and small group instruction as practices that support differentiated instruction. The study also hypothesized that teachers face challenges that hindered the full implementation of differentiated instruction practices, such as limited instructional time, the amount of time necessary to transition in classroom management, and high student-to-teacher ratios. This study concerning the use of differentiated instruction in the general education classroom is based on the constructivist theory. Both Piaget and Vygotsky heavily influenced this theory and emphasized the role of students in constructing their own knowledge. Students who participate in differentiated instruction can plan, monitor, and evaluate their own learning objectives and strategies. More internal and intentional and explicit instruction may be required for students with learning disabilities to construct and apply knowledge to their learning. This could be accomplished by utilizing differentiated instruction. The study is also influenced by the sociocultural theory that suggests that students learning by observing and modeling behaviors, attitudes, and cognitive processes of others. Teachers play an integral role in the learning process and inspire students' motivation by creating a supportive and engaging student classroom atmosphere. This study proposed to answer 3 questions related to differentiated instruction. The first question was, what are teachers' perceptions regarding the successful implementation of differentiated instruction? The second, what differentiated instruction practices do general education cite as being most effective for answering the academic progress of students with learning disabilities? The third question, what barriers exist to effectively carrying out differentiated instruction in the general education classroom? In addition to these 3 questions, 3 probes were asked to participants as well as follow-up questions. The first was, how has your understanding of differentiated instruction evolved over time? The second, can you describe a specific instance in which you implemented differentiated instruction to meet the needs of students with learning disabilities? And the third, how have you been able to overcome some of these barriers? Differentiated instruction has been a widely researched instructional practice. Carol Ann Tomlinson is often called the creator of the term differentiated instruction, and she's written several books that review over 40 years of research that supported differentiation in the classroom. In addition to Tomlinson, there has been much research on the effectiveness of differentiated instruction in the classroom. Educators and researchers identified 3 critical ways to differentiate: through the content, the process, and the product. Differentiated assessment is another important component as it provides teachers with feedback to help them adjust their instruction to the needs of their students. There are gaps in the literature that I reviewed regarding teacher professional development and teacher education on the use of differentiated instruction in the classroom. Longitudinal studies in the future could focus on how teacher preparation programs could better set teachers up for success for inclusive education. Future research could also discuss approaches to matching students with different processes or content based on their individual needs. For a school to support the diverse needs of students in a general education classroom, differentiated instruction is a critical strategy. This research study is relevant because it cited teachers' instructional strategies to support students with learning disabilities. A semi-structured qualitative data collection approach determined which differentiated instructional methods are effective for use with students, particularly those with learning disabilities. Data was collected by interviewing general education teachers in kindergarten through 5th grade classrooms. The findings were used to develop recommendation for the school's instructional policies and practices. The interviewees were asked 3 main questions related to differentiated instruction, and then interview probes were used to gather additional information. In addition to discovering effective differentiated instructional methods, barriers were also determined that exist in carrying out differentiated instruction. The individual interviews were recorded using voice recognition software, and then the transcriptions were coded into for data analysis using grounded theory methodology for qualitative data collection. Fidelity was measured by asking participants the same questions, followed by probing questions. After the interviews were conducted, the data was organized into general codes and specific codes. Participants agreed that differentiated instruction is best delivered in small groups or one-on-one with students who struggle or have been diagnosed with learning disabilities. Research data also supported the proposed hypothesis that teachers routinely use centers specifically in math and reading to differentiate instruction and to meet the learning needs of all students. Participants validated that the hypothesis that teachers are challenged to effectively carry out differentiated instruction due to the lack of time of instruction and collaboration with colleagues. Teachers commented that they often lack the resources or support staff to carry out differentiated instruction effectively. This study contributes to both theoretical understanding and practical applications in the field of education. It provides data to help educators meet the diverse needs of students in general education classrooms. This study enhances the literature that has previously been written on differentiated instruction by focusing on promoting academic progress among students with learning disabilities. While the study collected data on how to utilize differentiated instruction with students in general education classrooms, it did not provide as much data as anticipated in how to meet the needs of students with learning disabilities. Data was collected to provide effective practices that general education teachers use to differentiate learning. However, the sample size of students with learning disabilities was not as large as originally hypothesized. This study validated and supported the proposed hypothesis that differentiated instruction is an effective instructional strategy. I am currently the Director of Student Services at my school. This is my 25th year of employment at this private school outside of Chicago. I've been a classroom teacher, an interventionist, and have now moved into my current role as the Director of Student Services 5 years ago. With the growth in the number of students enrolling at our school, as well as the number of students entering that have been diagnosed with learning disabilities, I wanted to gain knowledge and begin to implement this knowledge in meeting the needs of diverse learners. This master's graduate program has given me a wide range of tools and practices to support students, teachers, and parents. While this process has been challenging while working full-time, I'm grateful for the many professors who encouraged me along the way. I'm thankful for this opportunity I've had to partner with Greenville University to receive my master's thesis. Thanks.